All right, hey guys, welcome back to the 42 days of magical practice. Geez, I think we're on day 25 today.
25.
Gosh, I hope I'm right. I didn't look at my notes. It's my responsibility. It's a lot of pressure. Today we're going to talk about the importance of having a physical practice and what the relationship is between how you move physically and how that affects your mental state, and looking at basically the bridge between your physical body, also your energetic body, and how that's going to affect your ability to perform these mental exercises.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess let's just start out with like a broad view of what actually counts as a physical practice that's going to support a magical practice or an energetic practice.
Right. I mean, I think that anything could, but there are some that are optimal compared to just a regular cross-training routine. I mean, I think they're all valuable in different ways.
Right.
But of course, the ones that have been developed over the years, we sort of put in a little bit more specific categories. So things like qigong and yoga and tai chi and the things that coordinate physical movement with breath. Mm-hmm. So and they all do it a little bit differently, right? But with the idea of bringing in energy through the breath and directing it with a physical motion that opens up specific channels in the body or meridians in the body to sort of integrate that energy to open up the channels to remove any impedances that are there. And also in that case, once that part's sort of done or it continues over time, then it actually expands those channels as you're able to draw in more energy and do more energetic practices. You're going to need more flow, right? So, or the volume of energy is going to increase. And so you can't have these little tiny vessels trying to, get all of this. The capacity has to be increased as well, right? So first we're just cleaning them out. We're removing any impedances so there's free flow in and out through the body, creating a stronger vessel basically. And then as you do it more and more and you're able to increase it, you're increasing the capacity of these channels to be able to let this go through. The flip side of that is that if you don't have something like that, you're going to be somewhat limited in what you can achieve over time. At least I think that that's the case. It seems to be the case. And because you need a certain amount of energy. I mean, again, if you have too much, if you're trying to plug your hairdryer directly into the hydroelectric plant, you're going to blow up the machine, right? And so the same thing happens with our physical vessel. If you're trying to have do practices that really accelerate and probably have these spontaneous openings, and you have all of this flow going through, but the physical vessel can't handle it, then you're going to have some kind of aberration that comes out, whether it be mental or physical. You can damage yourself. And so it's really important that this is looked at, and it's one of those things that is sorely lacking, at least in Western esoteric traditions, right? Where it's like they don't put a lot of emphasis on the physicality of what's going on. It's almost like that's really sort of pushed out of the way. It's just the mental and the emotional and all of these things, right? So highly in the the mental parts. So, and that's going to overcome all of these things, but it's not the case. And we see that in a lot of these modern day practitioners, or let's say used to see it in the modern day practitioners that have expired from very bad illnesses and that they've physically they've let themselves go to a point where they expire early. So I think it's a shame, because we could have learned so much more from them. They could have done so much more, and yet the physical vessel couldn't handle the amount of flow that was going through them. I really believe that that's the case.
It's funny, I've been reading the Castaneda books, and there's these parts where Castaneda is returning to, meet with Don Juan, his teacher, and his teacher's always saying like, hey, oh, you got fat, you're too slow, you're too sloppy, and then and on the flip side, Castaneda is always commenting on the way that Don Juan moves and how he's so like, he appears to be more youthful than he is and seems very strong, and all those kinds of things. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, strength, grace, balance, all of those things go along with having a maximum amount of flow with no impedance, being able to let it smoothly run through you and animate you in a way that's going to be, exactly right for your purpose. So it's like, we marvel at the athletic feats of, professional athletes, and whether they're dancers or, professional yoga instructors, professional football players. Power and grace and speed and agility, all of these things. And it's from years and years of making that a focus and putting that in there. And probably on the physical side, or let's say the energetic side, I would say that those that sort of incorporated these type of energetic exercises and physical techniques such as Qigong, yoga, those types of things, they probably would extend the lifespan of their athletic careers as well, if it wasn't just the physical training and not so much, understanding the idea and opening these channels. Physically we can block these things as well as, mentally blocking them by not doing anything. So
it is funny that we have that bias, like I'm engaged in a spiritual practice, so the body it doesn't matter, I'm doing something that's spiritual or mental or whatever. But this is really like how we relate, how we sense things.
It's the perfect vessel for moving in this place. This is a place of physicality. We have a perfect vessel to move in this place and interact with it. Otherwise, what's the point? The point, as far as I'm concerned, people may have other views, but the point isn't just to come here and, let this thing deteriorate while I'm trying to get out someplace else. It's like, get out someplace else, bring that information back, bring it so that you can engage in life in a good way, in whatever way you want. That's good for you. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. Not everybody has to be a professional football player or, have that level of athleticism, right? But it would be nice for most people to be able to move through their day comfortably and not have this ache or pain or that, or, stoop posture or not feel, whatever, all of these things, not to let the physical body deter you from experiencing life to the fullest, whatever that is for you. So I just think that that's, really, really important. And it's, again, one of those places that has been sorely lacking in at least the Western practices.
Right.
So
what does a healthy physical practice look like? In terms of frequency and duration and that kind of thing.
Sure. I think, again, and, put in whatever practice. If you already have a practice, if it's yoga, if it's Tai Chi, whatever, Qigong, fine. I do Qigong, so that's my practice. And
the Qigong that you practice is really easy to find actually online. One of the Qigong practices that you do,
right,
the healing practice, is Spring Forest Qigong.
Right, Spring Forest Qigong. Chunilin.
Okay.
Yeah. And great practice, very simple, very easy to do. Anybody could do it. It's very effective as a healing modality.
And I think you can find like clips of that on YouTube.
You probably can. And he has his own site as well that you can go and acquire the DVD or whatever. That's the thing. Again, we have to marvel at the amount of information that we have available to us. Yeah. You can get lost. If you just put in Qigong, you're going to find DVDs. You're going to find 1,000 of them from different people, different traditions, different whatever. It's just, and they all may be viable. I don't know. You would think that some of them probably aren't as effective or maybe too complex for people in general if you have no understanding or you're just starting out, and some are going to be very simple. I just find this one to be I've never found anybody that couldn't do this set of exercises and you know, coordinate the breath with them. He explains it very well. Again, it's very simple. Even if people can't stand, you can do it from a sitting position, and it's just, there are just a lot of good points there. And I think that's really important, that, you know, start at whatever level you're comfortable with. And it doesn't mean you have to do the whole routine all at once. Like, I can't stand for 20 minutes, or I can't stand for 30 minutes or an hour.
Or you don't have the time.
Or you don't have the time, right? So, you know, you do an exercise for 5 minutes. You know, we're sort of in this what can I get out of this in 5 minutes? It's
right.
like you do a single exercise for 5 minutes, and then the next day you do the next exercise for 5 minutes until you learn the whole thing. And then in the days when you do have the time, you string several of them together, you know, in order, and go through them. You know, as time goes on, you're going to feel so much better anyway, that you're going to want to do them.
Let's do one exercise. Like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, because I know that people at home, you know, some people may have a yoga practice, or they may have a qigong practice, or they may just want to experiment with something different. So if you were going to do, like, for, you know, today, you know, as we're going through this 42-day thing, if you were going to pick one 5-minute healing qigong exercise to perform today, what would it be?
If I were going to do it today, I mean, again, with this exercise, it's very simple. I mean, again, we could do it from a seated position or standing. It doesn't really matter. So if I'm doing it from a seated position, you can't see my feet, but my feet would be flat on the floor. And my back is straight again. It's really important that the spine is always straight. And I can keep my eyes open or eyes closed. With healing qigong, you can keep your eyes closed. It's perfectly fine. If you're not comfortable with that, or you have trouble with balance, you know, you want to just sort of pick a focus point and keep your eyes open. And so when I do it, one hand is palm down, one is palm up. And I'm just making this very slow rotation with nice, easy breathing. So again, I'm breathing in through one motion going down and the other hand going up. And then at the top, I'm rotating them and continuing down. It's kind of like a water wheel when you think about it. You know, it's just sort of mixing that energy that's in this line in the front channel of the body. We have a front channel, back channel, and many other meridians, right? So infinite number of meridians. So the idea is that we're sort of focused on the main channels in the beginning. And as the main channels get better, they're going to divert some of that flow into the more minor ones, if we want to call them that.
And in this practice that you just demonstrated, the main channel that you're opening is that central channel?
Yeah, the central channel, and the central channel that goes all the way through, right? So it's not just the front channel, but also the back channel going up. So
and just by
sort
doing
of mimicking,
this motion,
doing that motion, it's that my idea is that I'm moving the energy in front of me, sort of creating this circuit that's moving around the same way the circuit moves around inside the channels inside my body. So what's above is below, what's below is above, right? So a microcosm to affect the macrocosm in this case. So it's the same type of thing. When I move that, everything else starts to coordinate with that and move it up and down. So simple, simple, simple. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. And again, it's just the physical motion. Try to make it as smooth as possible. Do it for, you know, as, you know, whatever, pick a time and just do it for that amount of time. I mean, again, within the scope of the practice and that exercise, each exercise might last 5 minutes or maybe less, you know, depending on what it is. And they are sort of put in series so that they open specific channels in series. So it's sort of like, we'll open this circuit first, and then, okay, let's throw the switch and open this next circuit. So it leads it into the next stage and leads it into the next stage and through the appendages and all of that.
And that would be true for both like a well designed qigong routine, but also I would imagine like a yoga practitioner that You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
they design those routines to do the same thing.
I mean, except for the specifics, the idea is the same with any of them.
Yeah.
Is that breath and physical motion, or coordinating the physical motion to the breath, is going to have sort of a synergistic action, where again, it's not just breathing correctly and it's not just moving correctly, but when we combine the two, there's, you know, some sort of, again, synergistic action that creates more of both. You get more impact when you coordinate it together, as opposed to just doing it separately. So if I sit here and just breathe in and out, yes, I get some benefit. If I just move my arms, yeah, I get some benefit. But when I coordinate them together, it's sort of, again, you know, if we want to take it out to a grand idea, right? Inspiration, expiration, right? I'm breathing in the most subtle aspect of air, God, whatever you want to call it, universal energy, you know, and I'm taking those parts of myself and breathing them back out to that. And when I'm coordinating the air and physical motion together, what am I saying? I'm basically, my breath is that most subtle aspect of me, the energetic part, and I'm translating it into a smooth motion of physicality, right? So I'm taking my esoteric ideas, my energetic aspect, and translating it into a smooth physical existence, right? So that's why you see when everybody starts, you know, they're kind of like, you know, they're looking to make sure their hands are right, everything's kind of like, it's herky-jerky, right? It's like all over the place. And so, you know, and then at the end, you know, they see this very smooth, almost dance-like motion. Is it because, you know, there's a reason that it looks like that. There's a reason that you're making it smoother and smoother, and part of your concentration is doing that, right? Because, again, the idea is that on that upper level of idea, you're translating something that's subtle and trying to make it as physically subtle as well. You're trying to bridge that gap, bring the two together. And when you combine coordinating the breath with the physical motion, it's basically, that's the transference that you're trying to get to happen. And so in a way, it's a microcosm of this whole 42-day thing that we're doing, right? We have one place where we are, we have this idea or this, you know, thought of where we want to be. What's the smoothest transition to move to that place? So we go from an idea of where we want to be. How do I physically maneuver myself as smoothly as possible into that new place? So when I make all these little correspondences, it makes the practice that much easier, and it makes it personal for me. You know, it's hard for us in a Western culture to think that all these little things sort of can have some major impact on our lives, because we're not brought up that way. We don't think that way. But it's like, think about it. All these little things, everything that we've done so far, they're little aspects of different things. Some may be harder, some may be easier. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but they're all geared and designed to move you, show you that you can literally do something that will move you from where you are now, and through a subtle manipulation of energy and physicality, that you're going to move into this better place. And each one, you know, kind of gives you a layer by layer view of how that is. And of course, when you're done all 42, it's like you're going to, of course, focus on those things that are easier for you. There are strengths, right? So you're going to focus on that, and the strength is going to bleed off into the things that maybe aren't as strong right away. So it's not like everything's going to be at the same level. Not everybody's going to be Qigong master. Not everybody's going to be, you know, being able to, you know, visualize or focus or whatever it is, right? So, but the idea is that you can do it, and you can do it adequately enough to move you into those places in a nice, as smooth a transition as possible. Not everything has to be cathartic, right? Not everybody has to go through a near-death experience to have the experience of God or the experience of a universal intelligence or whatever it is, right? So, you know, you can do it slowly but surely through these other processes. They don't have to be, you know, so smack you in the face with a 2x4.
Right,
You know?
right.
You don't have to do it that way. It's not necessary. But we do have to sort of put it out there also that, you know, it's not just about thinking about it. You know, again, the focus for me is, you know, what can I do to get myself in that place? What can I do to have a different experience than I'm having now? One that I find, or at least intellectually, I think is going to be, you know, beneficial for me, or more beneficial than where I am right now, and is going to bring that wonder and adventure back into my life like I had when I was a kid. It's like if I asked, when my kids were little, when I asked them, you know, it's like, pretend you're an eagle and, you know, fly through the sky. They don't even hesitate. They don't even go like, oh, Dad. You know, it's like, if I asked my friends to do that, they'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you?
What have you been smoking?
You would have been smoking, right? So it's like, you know, how many drinks have you had again?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, no, they just like instantly, their arms go out, you know, and they're like, you know, and some of them are making noises and they're just sort of like, you know, they're running around the field. It's like effortless energy, you know, boundless energy, and, you know, and flying close to each other, then backing off again, going as fast as they can, sometimes stumbling and getting back up and keep going, you know, but it's that laughing and joyfulness that, you know, we want to bring back into our lives. I mean, it sounds frivolous, but if you could have that every day, I mean, people think about that stuff. They think, oh, if I could go back now, I'd enjoy that so much more.
Right.
But you can.
Right.
Do it now. I'm not saying you got to go outside. If you want to, go ahead. But you know, I'm not saying you have to go outside and, you know, flap around like an eagle. But, you know, how can I bring that wonderment, that awe, that enjoyment of life just for the sake of actually drawing a breath and being here? You know, how can I bring that back into my life every day? You're going to wake up differently. You're going to look at life in a different way. You know, when you think that every day is going to bring you a new adventure, holy hell, you know, it's like, that's something to wake up for. That's sort of the idea anyway, I think. I think if you have that, and you know, after a while, it just becomes this easier and easier transition to move into those places. And move into the place that you want to be. You know, if along that path is an event, every day is an adventure, I mean, that's a pretty good life. Regardless of what stage you're at, regardless of if you're in that zone or not, you know, if you're in your ideal state or not, you know, each day is an adventure and you do your best.
And how do you think that that a simple practice like doing this for 5 minutes while you're breathing helps you to be in that place?
As long as I, you know, like what I said before, as long as I have that idea initially, again, it's like implanting the idea. Even if you didn't have it before, now you do because you heard me say it.
Right.
That's like, this mimics that transition of that universal energy into a physicality.
Your connection.
My connection. So again, and thinking that as this moves smoothly, so my life will move smoothly as I'm moving toward what I want. And the smoother I make this, the easier and smoother that transition is going to be. It's that
It's interesting,
simple.
you know, I think when we do these exercises, it's so cool. I always kind of like marvel a little bit at like how you seem to naturally do that. Like you bring that grander idea to this simpler exercise, you know, this like simpler practice is like, it does boost your own like perceived value of the thing in your own mind, but like it makes it bigger than just doing something because it makes you feel good. I mean, it is,
or makes you healthier.
Right.
Healthier for what?
Right. Or like it's going to make me a better, you know, better at meditating or whatever, you know.
Right.
Yeah. But having that, I mean, it's cool. It's like having this kind of, I don't know, instead of looking at the exercise as just like a simple outline drawing, it's like you're looking at it as this beautiful painting in all its detail and stuff like that. That's pretty cool.
You know, from your perspective, I mean, I always think of it like this. I mean, you've heard me use this analogy before. It's like each one of these techniques, each one of these things that you do is sort of a, you know, a myopic view of the total painting, right? So to me, it's like, you know, a painting of that style of Monet, right? If I look at it close enough, it's just this splotch of color. You just see it as an individual brushstroke, right? It's like a splotch. And then you see these other splotches around it. It doesn't really make sense yet. And then as you pull your view farther and farther out, it becomes this unbelievable painting of light and color and, you know, the forms that are on it. And it has movement and motion, and it's amazing. So it's the same thing with these techniques, you know, each one as an individual, it counts, but it's like, but you have to see it in the context of the whole to see how it, which splotch of paint is that, which splotch of color is that. And some are going to be, you know, it's going to, for each person's eye is going to be drawn to a specific aspect of that painting, right?
Right.
They can see the whole painting, but each one is going to pick out different parts. For me, it's always how light plays off of whatever the painting is, or whatever, you know, pictures, all of that. I mean, it's all about the light. So, and for me, that's a great thing, how those things intermingle. But I always think of that as being, you know, for each of these practices, how each one can be seen as, okay, it's this color, it's this piece, but it's just a piece of a much bigger whole, and I have to coordinate them together to see this whole picture. And then I know my eye's naturally drawn to the strengths of what I feel is good for me. So if it's the light, or it's the water, or it's the, you know, how well this person's image came out on in the painting, or whatever it is, you know. So again, that idea is I think that's how I take these individual exercises and sort of put them in context. And it gives me a grander view of what I'm doing. It's not just, oh, I gotta do my yoga practice again. You know, oh, I gotta do my meditation again. Oh, he said I have to do a minute 10 times today for, you know, focusing. It's like, no, each one is like a splotch, and, you know, I'm putting in the context. What is this going to do for me? How is it going to enrich my life today, right now? And, you know, and in the whole picture, what's that going to do? Extending the picture out into tomorrow, and into next week, and into next year. You know, where am I moving toward? And I think it'll give you more impetus to do it, and not just to put more attention on it, and not just to make it more important than it is, although they all are very important, but just to see that, you know, okay, don't miss the forest for the trees, right? So it's like, again, I'm looking at that big picture and seeing, you know, not just the individual thing that I'm going to blow up into the whole picture, but it's part of a grander plan. It's part of a grander view and a more intricate view of how all these things work together to get you to what you want. I always come back to, what do you want? And is it valuable enough? Do you have enough value in achieving that to put the effort toward getting it? You know, with all these little aspects. Spending a little more time on the things that you really like, but also including these other parts that are so important. Because there will be people that, you know, they're not that physical, you know, they have a real aversion to physicality, whatever it is, but it is important. If for no other reason than making sure this vessel can handle more flow. It doesn't do it automatically. And there are plenty of dead practitioners and damaged practitioners, mentally and physically, that are proof of that. So, you know, we don't want to be counted in that part.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's all about continuing on the path, not stopping your path right here. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So today we'll just do those 5 minutes of just, I mean, even for people that have already done it before.
Or for people that have their own practice, just sort of go at your practice with that idea. Just instill that idea first and continue with your practice. If you have a great yoga practice, then absolutely continue doing that.
Right.
I mean, it's just as good as anything else.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. So you're just putting a different context, you know, a different idea another reason why you're doing it.
Yeah, right.
You know, how does this apply in the bigger picture?
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. And if you have no practice, do that. It's not just about health, and it's not just about, making a better body. It's about, how am I comfortably moving from one place to the next? It'd be a shame to get to that place and then expire.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how to say it more delicately.
Yeah.
I get my $1 million and boom, dead the next day. I retire, dead the next day. It's like, no, the idea is that you get to that place so you can enjoy that place, and experience it. And if it's not what you want, after you've experienced it for a while, you move to something else. It's all about movement. It's not about stagnation. If you're great in that place and you build it out even more and you make it even better, then that's wonderful. But, it has to be, part of that picture. And the physical aspects of training are just as important as the mental aspects. I really believe that. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where's
my cookie?
Yeah. Good boy. All right. Enjoy. Good luck. And we'll see you tomorrow.